Israel has banned the United Nations Agency for Palestinian Refugees, UNRWA, from operating in Israel and occupied East Jerusalem within 3 months.
This despite objections from the international community. Israeli parliament passed the bill with 92 votes in favor and 10 against it. UNRWA chief Philip Lazarani condemned the decision, saying it will deepen the suffering of the Palestinians. The move brought criticism from several countries, including the United States, Britain, and Germany.
They really play an irreplaceable role right now in Gaza, where they're on the front lines getting humanitarian assistance to the people they need it. There's nobody that can replace them right now in the middle of the crisis. So we continue to urge the government of Israel to pause the implementation of this legislation.
In every war zone, every refugee camp, the United Nations is a beacon of hope. And so it's a matter of profound regret that the Israeli parliament is considering shutting down UNRWA's operations. The allegations against UNRWA's staff earlier this week were fully investigated and offer no jurisdiction for cutting off ties with UNRWA.
The U.S. Department also condemned the lack of aid reaching northern Gaza, stressing that Washington would not accept this situation.
This after the Israeli military intensified its operations in northern Gaza. Palestinian health officials said an Israeli strike on a street in central Gaza's Nusrat refugee camp killed 10 people and injured 20 others.
Now, meanwhile, Israel said spy agency Mossad chiefs returned from talks in Doha with his CIA counterpart and the Qatari premier, where they discussed a new framework for a Gaza hostage-release deal. Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi on Sunday unveiled a proposal for a 2-day truce in the Israel-Hamas war that would include a hostage release, which he said could pave the way for a full halt to fighting.
U.S. President Joe Biden said that Israel's war in Gaza should end. He added that he was renewing efforts for a ceasefire after Egypt proposed a 2-day truce.
Now, furthermore, PM Netanyahu, during an address at the opening of the Knesset winter legislative session, said Israel severely damaged Iran's defense systems and its ability to export missiles in its airstrikes on Saturday. He added that the Israeli military hit hard on industrial factories of death.
I would like to emphasize these were not workshops that we attacked. These are not small explosive laboratories, as you know, from Judea and Samaria or the Gaza Strip. These are industrial death factories on an industrial scale, and we dealt them a real blow.
In other development, Israeli airstrikes hit the southern Lebanese city after the IDF called for residents in the ancient coastal city to evacuate, while Hezbollah rockets continue to rain down across northern Israel.
The Lebanon's health ministry said at least 60 people, including 2 children, were killed in Israeli raid on several areas in the eastern Bekaa Valley. The toll covered 12 areas in Baalbek region where Hezbollah holds sway. The rescue efforts are still underway. Over 1,700 people have been killed in Lebanon since the Israel-Hezbollah war erupted late last month.
All right, for more on this, we're now being joined by Dr. Malcolm Davis, live from Canberra. He is a senior analyst in Defence Strategy and Capability, Australian Strategic Policy Institute, joining us on the broadcast. Thank you so much for joining us on World DNA, sir.
It's my pleasure.
Sir, Israel has banned the UNRWA from operating in the country. Obviously, this is going to have a bearing on delivery of aid in Gaza as well. It's brought widespread condemnation. This at a time when a ceasefire is being negotiated as well. How do you assess the extent of the impact of this decision?
Look, I think from Israel's perspective, they have real concerns about UNRWA's association with Hamas in Gaza. And so they're concerned about UNRWA's role in terms of assisting or facilitating Hamas operations there. But from the other perspective, from the international community's perspective, the concern has to be getting aid to the Palestinian people as much as possible. that aid has to be distributed in a way that ensures Hamas cannot hijack that aid and use it for themselves. So I think that essentially banning UNRWA is probably not the smartest thing they could have done in this regard. What needed to happen was greater Israeli oversight over how UNRWA operates, to make sure that there is no assistance between UNRWA and Hamas, and to make sure that Hamas cannot hijack aid, and to ensure that it gets to the people that need it the most, which is the Palestinian people.
Right, Dr. Davis, now, U.S. had threatened to cut off its flow of weapons in Gaza if the aid does not reach or they don't speed up the aid delivery. Now that they've banned UNRWA, which was one of the sources to supply aid to Gaza, do you think U.S. will take any action?
Look, I doubt it. We are literally less than 10 days away from a critical U.S. presidential election. If the Biden-Harris team were to be seen to cut off military assistance to Israel at this crucial point, they would have profound domestic electoral impacts on Harris's chances of winning the presidential election. So I don't see any actual real response from the US, such as cutting off the aid. But certainly I think you will see criticism coming out of the Biden administration against Israel for doing this. And the Israelis will listen and nod their head and then get on with the job that they're doing.
Right. Now, Doctor, just to expand on that a little, Mossad chief has returned from talks in Doha as well. The new framework integrates, that's what the Israeli Prime Minister's office is saying, that this new framework integrates previous proposals. It takes into account the main issues and recent developments in the region. That being said, we see this defiance from the Israeli side, as we are in this case as well. Not much has changed on ground. We're seeing exchange of fire between Iran and Israel as well. That being said, do you think this is conducive to ceasefire negotiations or a possible deal?
Well, firstly, I think it's in Iran's interest not to retaliate against Israel's airstrikes the other day. The Iranian air defenses are essentially now non-existent, certainly non-functional. So Iran is wide open to any Israeli retaliation against an Iranian response. And that Israeli retaliation would be on a much higher level than what we saw just a few days ago. So Iran should hold back from any retaliation. I think, on the other hand, Israel now has an opportunity to actually work towards some sort of ceasefire agreement that would see the release of the hostages and some sort of truce that would allow a de-escalation. But ultimately, that ceasefire has to turn into a permanent peace that then ensures that groups like Hamas and Hezbollah cannot reconstitute and once again threaten Israel. So that would require some sort of agreement for a multinational peacekeeping force in Gaza, for example, or in southern Lebanon, that could then make sure that hostile forces such as Hamas and Hezbollah do not come back into the territory and then once again rearm and pose a threat against Israel.
All right, Dr. Malcolm Davis, thank you so much for joining us on the show and giving your insights.
Thank you.